And I'm going to give you one opportunity because we're friends.
Winner!
Yeah, F him. They went from loving this guy, best move ever, to hating him.
There's nowhere for him to go. I think there's one place.
You can't do that in the national team.
Do you even know what you're talking about?
Successful and sexy? No. It wasn't aggravating at times? Yes.
Sorry,
That's not very fair.
It's not about being fair.
Welcome to the greatest soccer show ever.
All Man United fans live in the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to We Are Soccer. It's another Sunday night filled with soccer. Well, there was a lot that happened this weekend. Arsenal won in the Premiership, but crashed out in the Europa League. I hope you watched that one with some beer and chips. If you watched the game or watched any of the highlights, you'll understand that. We'll talk about the UCL draw. We'll talk about Antonio Conte ranting about Spurs again. We've got MLS history being made this past weekend. Congratulations to the newest expansion team, St. Louis City there. The U.S. men's national team roster dropped. We'll talk about some of the players who made it, some of them that didn't, and the upcoming Nations League games. We've got some talk on the Pulisic interview that happened on ESPN this past week. A 40-minute interview with Christian Pulisic on ESPN. He said some interesting things. We'll talk about it. Season 3 of Ted Lasso started this past week. Do you watch the shows as they air, they come on, or do you wait and binge it at the end? We'll talk about that. Plus, it was Nate's birthday yesterday.
Yay.
Happy birthday, Nate.
Hurrah.
But no one cares because you're not here today, Nate. Boo. But Nate isn't here. But we do have the host of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast joining us, Mr. Robert Kerr. Robert, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Happy birthday to Nate, but your seat's pretty comfortable right here. So I'm glad to be here with you gentlemen talking about some soccer stories outside of my usual local story stuff that hits national and international newspaper pages. But excited to be here. Just recorded the 102nd episode of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. So very excited to talk about kind of a scattershot weekend of soccer with a lot of games being canceled because of the FA Cup quarterfinals. There was a handful of very eventful cup games as well as Premier League games. And then a lot of teams inactive because of cancellation. So it was kind of an odd weekend, but definitely eventful.
Yeah, lots and lots of soccer.
Yes.
Brooks, I know you were out scouting this past weekend. I know you watched a lot of soccer and it's been cold.
Yeah.
You watched a lot of soccer. It's cold. You doing all right, man? You
this
good?
morning.
You thawed out?
Yeah, I think I finally thawed out from the games I had to watch this morning. I only got through 1.5 of them because I couldn't get through the second 45 minutes of a U16 match because I was just like, this is not worth it. And then also it was windy, and then the game gets sloppy a little bit, so I was like, I guess I'll watch video or, whatever. So, but yeah, I was indoors on Saturday, so that was nice, watching the Wolves play St. Louis City SC, which obviously we'll talk about their MLS news later in the MLS segment. But that was good. And then ODP this weekend. So all the teams were selected for the boys. The girls were the past weekend. So the state teams are selected, and then they'll go to sub-regionals, and then they'll get selected for the regional teams. So ODP.
Is that still a thing? Is that ODP still a thing? That
Yeah.
still goes on, huh?
Oh yeah. Still a way for MLS teams to scout players to see if they outside the MLS Next stuff if there's any talent and whatnot. So for sure.
All right, cool. All right, lots to get to. Why don't we start where we normally start? We'll start with some Premiership stuff. This Premiership is now actually on a small hiatus because all the players are going to go play for their national teams. USA has 2 games. We'll get to those games against Grenada and El Salvador. We'll talk about the roster that was dropped to that. But why don't we quickly jump in and talk about some of the games that happened this past weekend. My Aston Villa, big winners, 3-0. I mean, we're just the best club in the world, what can I say? Bournemouth, yeah, oof, lowly. They've had some big wins this year, Bournemouth. They had some good draws, but they just couldn't. They look terrible. Boys, they look terrible. I don't know if you watched any of the highlights. I watched that game, but don't watch Villa games because it's not very exciting. But Villa getting the job done, and I'm very happy. I was very, very happy with my Villa winning 3-0 yesterday. One of the games I think we should talk about is the Southampton-Tottenham game. Listen, Southampton, bottom of the table. They go to great lengths to make it tough to watch them as well. It's very tough. Tottenham, my God, oh my word. With the firepower they have, they should be doing a lot better. They are not doing well. Antonio Conte lost his mind yesterday. Robert, you and I, as a group here, we were talking about Antonio Conte. Are you surprised with what he said and surprised with what he came out and kind of said to this press about himself and the club?
Well, not really, to be honest. But I am surprised that it's like almost like the speculation that the Barfly had when he was first hired there, like actually came true, and he spoke those words in the most public setting possible. Like Antonio Conte is used to getting what he wants from a club, winning, or if he doesn't get what he wants, he leaves. Yeah. Like it is pretty much that cut and dry with him. And in him joining Tottenham, a team that is like comically not going to A, win, or B, like buckle to the demands of a coach for what they want. Like, so it was always the inevitable conclusion here that we get to this point, but it's just spectacular that he actually said all those things like so publicly.
Was he smoking a cigarette when he was doing this?
But I don't know how, he definitely just, scorched earth territory.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't talk about your boss and the company you work for like that in any normal setting because you will be fired the next day. I feel that he hasn't been fired yet because they don't want to pay him off. And maybe they don't have a backup plan, and they should, though. Daniel Levy is a terrible owner. I do want to ask you this question, Robert and Brooks. Listen, is it the owner, and he's not the full owner, by the way. Daniel Levy is part owner. But is the fact that Tottenham, plain and simple, sucks? They haven't won a freaking trophy in God knows how long.
I think it's 15 years. I read.
It was like
a League Cup. I think.
Is it down to Daniel Levy, or is it just the fact that they're just bad luck and cursed?
No, it's down to the players you spend and what you're doing internally. And I mean, listen, can we say Todd Bowley sucks? Can we be honest with Chelsea
we will get to Chelsea here shortly?
I'm just saying, can we say that for a long time, the Glazers have been atrocious for Manchester United?
They all have, but all of them seem to have trophies under the belt in the last several years.
Yeah,
Why is it that Daniel Levy, who has Harry Kane, who has Heung-min Son, they've got good players. They got a World Cup winning goalkeeper, although I don't rate him.
I would say depth would always have been their concern. Like, you get in all these competitions, like we've talked about. You're getting FA Cup, Moose Cup, Champions League, Europa League, whatever you're playing in, and you need depth, and that's the name of the game. The more depth you have, the players you can rotate, and then you have your league games in there because you still have to stay, in those top 4 or 5 spots to qualify for Champions League. It is extremely difficult when you don't have any depth. Then you don't have any players, to play, or you have young guys in your academy coming up. So. It's just, I think that's kind of cursed Tottenham a bit.
I don't know if I want to be nice and kind of agree with you, or if I want to just be like, hey man, I'm sorry, but Daniel Levy is a nightmare of an owner. He swaps managers too quickly. They haven't spent the most money. I think what they needed to do last year was not hire Conte, sell Harry Kane for $100+ million, and bring in other players and a coach who could deal with it.
Craig, he has a go-karting track he's going to put underneath the stadium, and he's playing NFL football games. He's a businessman, my friend.
Wait, is the go-karting thing real?
Yes.
Real? They're going to put They're going to, or they have?
They are going to.
They're going to put a go-karting?
Yes, they're going to add that to their stadium.
I got to make it to the stadium.
Yes, they're going to be go-karting track underneath the stands or something they're doing, and then they have football already going. That's why they did the field stuff.
Well, yeah, they built the $1 billion stadium, right, to bring in the NFL and all that.
He's not stupid. He knows he wants to make money from other things, not just soccer, because he knows that soccer only brings us so much money in.
It's all about how you're evaluating. You label Daniel Levy as a terrible owner, but I mean, it's all about how you're measuring it. To who does he suck?
This is true. I mean, they finished above, let's just say they finished above 60 to 70% of the teams in the Premiership every year, right? They're in that top 6 or 7. So you're right. To who do they suck? But you would think they would have at least one trophy in that cabinet by now.
I think that they lost their window. I mean, it's kind of like repetitive to say, like, go back to the Pochettino days, but that was seriously their window.
Absolutely.
And then they went, like, at the worst time when they needed new blood, they didn't do it. And then, obviously, that regime's long gone, and they've been kind of just, like, limping along ever since.
Yes, and the problem was, I remember that chip. Like, they were so close, and it was Liverpool they were playing in the final that year, wasn't it? I mean... No, was it Liverpool? Yeah, Liverpool they were. It wasn't Real Madrid, it was Liverpool, right?
I believe it was Liverpool.
Yes.
And then they were in the Carabao Cup final last year. Was it last year, 2 years ago, and they fired... Well, the League Cup final, and they fired Mourinho the week before, which... Listen, you're about to win. If there's one thing Mourinho is good at, it's winning trophies.
Yeah.
And you fired him a week before you're in the Cup final.
Yes.
And then you put an interim coach who was like the youth team coach in charge.
I assume that had to do with he probably had a bonus structure if he wins a cup or something like that.
Oh,
and they just wanted to... Daniel Levy didn't want to pay him for a bonus.
I mean,
But Jose Mourinho is
at this
the...
point, they should have paid it because they're going to go trophyless for a long time.
Yes.
Who knows?
And Jose Mourinho is, like I talked about, just like how Jesse Marsh has pulled this off a little bit. I think he's learned something from Jose, is that he's the king of, oh, you break a contract? Oh, you can pay me a lot of money, and it's going to be for a few years you're going to be paying me.
See, now that's a good point. So why don't we quickly read off the Antonio Conte, we'll call it stats. He was appointed November 2nd in 2021 at Spurs. His contract runs until June 30th of 2023. He signed an 18-month contract. He wanted the 18-month contract, not the club, from what I understand. He has been in charge for 76 games. They've won 41 of those games, drawn 12, and lost 23, with a goal difference of plus 51. Also a win percentage of 51. Yeah. So he hasn't done that bad, but he's just, in my opinion, when it gets to the big games, those must-win games, or...
As you and Nate would make fun, he's done better than Thierry Henry.
Oh my God, Thierry Henry.
I'll poke fun at myself for that. All right.
We'll talk about that. I would love, Robert, we're going to get into that, by the way. I would love to know your U.S. men's national team manager picks. We'll talk about that later, by the way.
Yeah.
That comes on the heels with Vieira being sacked at Palace, who now people are saying is going to join up with Thierry Henry, and they're going to be the coaching staff of the U.S. men's national team. Holy hell, what a dumpster fire that would be. So anyway, Antonio Conte, good luck. He'll be sticking around, I guarantee it, for the next couple of probably weeks or months till the season ends. They'll ride him off into the sunset, and then he'll be gone. Yeah. Do we all feel the same way on that one?
Yeah, I think Conte is done. I mean, you feel the same way, I think, Robert, right?
I think he might have just hit the eject seat button at the international break. He was going to be out of a job in a couple months early, so now he has a couple more months to look for a better job.
I mean,
Italy!
Right? Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have to pay him a ton to leave because it's only 6 months before his contract ends, but you might be right.
So where does he go if he goes? He's only done well in Italy, let's be honest. I mean... And
he won at Chelsea when he was there for the 2 years.
Yeah, but he doesn't do well in cup competitions. That's always been the...
He'll probably head back to Italy.
Juventus? Is Allegri going to be done at some point?
Yeah, Allegri, they're going to want him out.
Yeah, they're going through changes because financial things.
Inter will need a new manager. Yeah. So he'll hold out. I guarantee if he gets fired now, he'll hold out for a couple of months and then figure it out, probably in the middle of the summer. But have a nice... vacation, go on the beach somewhere and sun himself.
Yes.
Yeah, good for him. Wish I could do that, right?
Yes.
That'd be nice. All right, you did mention Chelsea. Oh my Chelsea. Drawing with Everton 2-2.
Oh, Sean Dyche.
Sean Dyche getting points there, helping Everton move up the table. There's a scene after the game of Todd Boehly, the Chelsea owner, walking outside the stadium.
He was upset.
He was pretty upset. He's pretty upset.
He's like, money. I have money. It's not working. What do I do?
There was some explicit in the sentences and back and forth with whoever was filming it.
Yes.
He called it an effing S game. We're keeping the swearing down for the kids.
Yes.
Listen, the Todd Boehly experiment has not gone well. He's put a lot of money into this, and it has not worked out well. I think the number one mistake he made was hiring Graham Potter, who we all said was an average manager at best. He had a very good year with Brighton. Now he's left. Guess what? Brighton are doing just as well, if not better, without him.
Seagulls. Ah!
I mean, it's Graham Potter's a terrible coach. I'm sorry. He can't figure it out. Now what he's doing is he's taking all those players he's purchased in the January window and he's benching them. And here comes Kai Havertz back in the squad. Here comes Pulisic back in the squad. Yes. Pulisic did start yesterday. Played for 60, 65 minutes. Did not look like Pulisic old, so it's going to take him a little bit of time to get back. But I think this is a failed experiment. I do expect Graham Potter to be sacked at the end of the year.
Yes.
Because they're not moving up the table. They're going to stick around in 10th position. And for a couple of minutes, they were actually in 11th position because my Villa jumped them to 10th. But then the draw took Chelsea 1 point ahead. I think they might be tied now, actually, only ahead on goal difference. Why don't we look at the table real quick?
I was going to actually ask you, how do you feel about your team being the only non-relegation fodder who's behind Chelsea?
I actually like what's going on in the Premiership this year because, you know, the bottom 7, anybody can be relegated. Anybody just goes 9. On a losing win. Is it 9 or whatever?
Yeah, you're in 11th, and then there's like a 10-point drop below you.
Realistically, I think it's 7 of the teams. I know
Crystal Palace is kind of hovering with Wolves at 27.
Who hasn't won a game in 2023, right? So they fired Vieira. But realistically, I think Palace and Wolverhampton hang on. But Leeds finally got a win, and they jumped up.
Everton's
got that draw.
tie was huge.
Forest got a win and have been all right. So I love it. I actually love it. The fact that there's about 7 or 8 teams who could go down.
Yes,
makes it more entertaining, right?
Especially
the bottom
on the
of the table.
day.
What's going to be more exciting? The bottom of the table, or the top of the table with Arsenal and Man City coming down because they play April 1st. When we come back from this break. I believe they play on that one.
I think Liverpool Man City is the headline game coming back from international.
Is it that one's coming back?
Yeah.
And but Arsenal Man City do play in a couple weeks shortly. Yeah, we'll probably end up drawing, right?
Yeah.
And but if one of them wins, they'll go on to win the title. I feel that could be the decision.
I think this end of this EPL season, if depending on how things fall, depending if bottom teams beat the middle of the road teams, or there's an upset here or two in the top 5 of a bottom team beating them, this could be very interesting on the final day of the season. Like, people could be playing for Champions League spots, Europa League spots, relegation and promotion, not being relegated. This is going to be interesting. Like, there's more, as I say, the MLS, a little more MLS parody, not as much as like the Bundesliga has, but I am digging the parody, and I'm digging that these so-called money machines of these ginormous clubs are losing points to these bottom dwellers, as people would say.
It is always funny when one of the big teams who spent hundreds of millions of pounds is all of a sudden dropping, like Chelsea, right?
It's called get a scouting department and get the evaluations right, because apparently money doesn't work when you just throw hundreds of millions of dollars at things and don't know what you're doing.
It's not only getting the right player, it's getting the right player to fit in with your system and with your team, right? Yeah. There's a lot that comes down to it. Robert, I know you follow the Premiership. I know you're a Liverpool fan. Congratulations, by the way, on your 7-0 victory. But
over Nate's Manchester United.
We got to mention that. I've got to mention it.
He doesn't like Manchester United.
Anytime Manchester United gets beaten, I'm going to mention. We do need to talk about the Man United Fulham game, the debacle that happened there. But I do want your opinion on who do you think. One, let's talk about Chelsea. What's gone wrong there? Is it just spending money to spend money and all of a sudden, or is it the manager? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think that Graham Potter being singled out for being like a bad coach and them being the reason, I think is way unfair, because Chelsea has just gone through cataclysmic change.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a different owner, and with the new owner, literally every single person, maybe even the tea lady, might be different than before. Like, seriously, like the brain trust that was Chelsea before under Abramovich completely cleaned house. And that's like an unprecedented way to hand over ownership anyway. And then you hand it over to a person with no experience too, and then hire a coach that has, I'd argue you were saying he's Graham Potter's a mediocre coach. I think he's done really well to get like more modest teams to perform at a higher level.
Sure.
And maybe it was a little early in his progression
Yes.
to make that big jump to
Yes.
like
A
make
big
a
club.
elite team, a trophy team.
Yes.
Like, so maybe he might have been that in a little bit in the future, and he might have sold himself short. Like, he could be leading Brighton to a top 4 spot, but instead he jumped ship for the big paycheck, and he's lower than he probably would have been with Brighton. So a little bit of poetic justice there, and not seeing the story through was kind of a bummer. But it's a big twist for his story, and maybe a little bit of a jump early. I think he's taken too much of the blame, though, because there's so much of a big change there in such an unprecedented way.
Fair enough.
It's crazy how much money they've spent and the results they've had. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's not surprising that it's a little bit fractured due to just the nature of the turnover of the ownership that's happened within the last year.
I mean, for me, the poetic romance of Alexi Laos, the romance of soccer. The soccer gods have called down upon Brighton to stay above the so-called wonder Graham Potter who left for Chelsea. The soccer gods have called upon and said, no, Mr. Potter, Mr. Pooper Potter. No. We are going to not let Chelsea go above your former Seagulls, and we are going to keep them in the running for a top 6 spot.
I love it.
But to your point about Potter, it is funny that Chelsea's not scoring when that was always like the caveat to Brighton. Like, man, they play so great, but they just don't score. And now like Chelsea's doing that. So that is, I mean, a consistent thing that is showing up at Chelsea with Potter. So.
One of the things that I don't like what's happening with the Premiership is that teams are becoming more defensive, and they're being built on defense and lack of creativity and lack of scoring. You see it with Conte especially. You see it with Potter. You see it with managers who come in and just focus 100% of their time on training for defense and how to prevent goals. Because if you don't let a goal in, the minimum you can do is a draw, right? And that's become a thing. So that seems to be Potter's thing, but he just cannot find ways to get all these creative and offensive players going. You've got players in that club who just can score goals in bunches, but just can't seem to do it under Potter.
I go back with Robert's stuff. So I just listen. The wheel of craziness that has happened in that club, and I've said this before. When you were the top player and the top dog there, like Pulisic and Mount were, and now you're so unsure of where you stand in the roster and in the club if you're going to make the 18 each week, I mean, there's your answer right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, how can you perform well where you had players like that before and you never got rid of those players or you never did anything, So if you knew that they weren't going to play or in your plans, get rid of them in the January transfer window. Yeah. Do something. Like get money or I don't know what you can do, but or they should have done. But if they weren't in the future plans, they should have got rid of them, and maybe we wouldn't see how this 10th place stuff going on right now.
Sure.
But, the craziness, like I said, the carousel, the merry-go-round at Chelsea, the merry-go-lion round, whatever you want to call it, yes, it has been crazy. And the change has not helped.
And there's more changes coming this summer for that club. A change that did happen at the 12th placed club. Patrick Vieira was sacked this past week. Crystal Palace find themselves in 12th position, winless in their last 12 matches and 3 points above the relegation zone.
Patrick Vieira back to MLS.
Patrick Vieira, goodbye.
Yes.
Then the rumor has popped up that he's going to be joining Thierry Henry, and they're going to be making a bid to coach the.
Well, yeah, that could be possible. There are some MLS. If a coach goes down, in the middle of the season in MLS, I could see a team maybe wanting to bring him back that have the money.
And just so people are aware, Patrick Vieira does have MLS coaching experience. Coached with NYCFC for was it 2-3 years?
2-3 years, yeah,
something like that.
And he did well.
Say again.
He did well.
He
struggled
very well.
a bit at the beginning, but then he picked it up.
He got used to it, and he did well. I thought last year he did very well at Crystal Palace. He did a very nice job there. But this year, it started out the year, was good, not great, but good.
Yeah. Enough.
But the 2023 year has brought no wins and no points, and now they're 3 points above relegation. The rumors are that Crystal Palace will be bringing in Roy Hodgson, Lampard, or Steven Gerrard.
Gerrard didn't take the national team job for Belgium?
No.
Okay.
Apparently that fell through. So those three are the rumored head coach candidates for that job. I know which one I would go with, and it would be Roy Hodgson just for the end of the year, and then reassess in the summer and bring someone else in.
Really?
I do not think...
Big Sam, baby. Big Sam Allardyce to keep you above.
Ooh, I don't know
We
about
just
that.
need to play ugly soccer and get points.
And there you go. Just lump it forward,
Yes.
ugly soccer. That's what Big
Yes.
Sam does. But I think Roy Hodgson could do it well. I think he could just make sure they're safe, get them through to the end of the year, and then find
What do you think,
a new
Robert?
manager.
What do you think? Who should take over for Vieira? What should happen?
Who should take up for Vieira out of those three that you listed?
Or one that you may think is better?
I was looking up where Sam Allardyce is working right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's actually anywhere at the moment.
I think he's looking for a job.
Last time he was working was West Bromwich Albion, I believe.
Yes.
So, I'd say out of those three listed, the most predictable is definitely Roy Hodgson.
Yes.
For sure. He was
Tony
already there
He's
last.
Pulis.
76 years old, but he's still the most predictable and probably the best option.
No, Tony Pulis, who was there at Crystal Palace before. Come on.
Ooh, but okay.
Tony
all right.
Pulis retired.
Anybody can talk about retirement, right?
Yes.
But here's my thing. Bring in Roy Hodgson and say, listen, we got 2.5 months left in the season. Just help us get over the line, make sure we're safe. Get us a win or two, a win and 2 draws, and that'll help us because the teams below us are going to lose, and they're going to probably seal their own, defeats there. I think they just bring in Hodgson till the summer, get him through, and then in the summer you just say, all right, who's out there? Who can we get? Probably that's, in my opinion, the best way forward.
Yes.
Why don't we quickly, Robert, I do want your take on the EPL table. If you had to pick 3 teams right now that are going to be headed down, that are going to be gone, relegated to the championship next year, who would you pick? Gundy ahead?
So you want me to pick the relegation teams from the most crowded relegation room there has been, hey?
Yes.
Bingo.
All right,
bingo.
so there is probably 8, but there's only 2 points between 17th safety and 20th right now. So typically the pattern is the 20th and 19th spot are predictable. They're just bottom dwellers by this time.
Yep.
And then it's that 18th spot that is usually the last day or so. But I think Brooks might have nailed it. I think
tough,
Bournemouth
isn't it?
getting that point off of Liverpool is just ridiculous
Yes.
last week. And when my 2 cents about Liverpool is getting that 7-0 win over Manchester United, while it was awesome, I was still very nervous that what would happen the next game, because when we beat Bournemouth 9-1 or whatever last year, we lost the next game to Fulham or something. So
Yeah.
it is a pattern.
It is a pattern.
But it's really difficult. I would say my 3 to go down: Bournemouth, Leicester, and it would be a little bit surprising at this point, but Wolves might have a slip. But
Wow.
Wow, going against Lopetegui.
Humbling, okay.
He's done one heck of a job, at least, to get him out of
yeah,
there.
I'm not super confident in
All
that.
right.
I won't lie.
Well, Diego Costa's out, right?
I guess I didn't want to go chalk that
fine.
it would be
Yeah.
the 3 that aren't there now. It would be pretty wild for West Ham to go down, because that's been a minute since they've been down.
I'm going to tell you that absolutely wild if West Ham or Everton got relegated. Everton have never been relegated out of the Premiership.
Yes.
It would be wild if West Ham or Everton did, but I don't see either of those two.
West Ham or Everton are up,
I
you're
don't
thinking?
see them going down.
Yeah, I think Everton saves himself somehow, just because they're bad, awful, terrible, but just what's around them is in the same
even
sort
worse,
of
yeah.
hemisphere. And I'd be a little bit bummed. I have a soft spot for Leicester because I grew up in the East Midlands, or the West, or the Midlands,
area,
which
yeah.
wasn't too far. So I had friends who were Leicester fans, and then obviously the miracle in 2016. So it would be a pretty harsh, 2-season
Yeah.
fall from grace for them. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Bournemouth, Leicester, and I'm gonna
With
Nottingham
Wolves?
Forest. Sorry,
Oh,
Bournemouth,
Nottingham.
Leicester,
Okay.
Nottingham Forest.
All right.
Oof. two Midlands clubs there, Forest and Leicester. All right. Brooks, you changing your thoughts from previous weeks? Or you
Did I list mine previous weeks?
I think you have. I could not remember.
I don't know.
what
It changes. But it's
It's
who you got
last
this
day
week?
stuff, so I feel like no matter what,
It
we're
is.
on a limb.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say West Ham go down,
Woo! All right.
Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest. Southampton have been in this position a lot, and they somehow find a way to get themselves out all the time. And I'm upset because I love the Southampton that was bring the academy kids up, buy the cheap players, and we'll sell them on, kind of like what Borussia Dortmund was doing a little bit. And they haven't found that yet. And I don't think they found that coach, or I don't know. They've kind of gotten away from that. But I think Southampton finds a way to dig themselves out of 20th.
And that right there is the reason I am going to have Southampton going down, because they found themselves in this position many a times, and they have seemed to scrape out of the relegation zone at the end of the year somehow by the hair on their chinny chin chin. Not this year. I see them, I'm going to put the table back up, I see Southampton going down. I see Bournemouth going down because they may have got that win against your Liverpool the other week. God knows how that happened, but they played at Villa Park yesterday, and they looked terrible. So I say Bournemouth, you are going to be gone. And then I think Nottingham Forest will find a way to get back into that bottom three. I think West Ham climb out. I think Leicester City have the wherewithal and the skill to get out of there. They've still got some good players, so I do think Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, and Southampton are gone at the end of this year. I tell you what, though.
So Bournemouth is the unanimous.
I think Bournemouth.
Yes, I think Bournemouth is unanimous for everyone.
I tell you what, though. It's going to come down to that final game day, isn't it?
Yes.
The final week, the final day of games.
And goal differential. None of these bottom teams they can't get smacked by bigger teams. They need to lose by a goal or two, because that's what's going to come down to.
You got to keep it minimal, but they're going to be keeping their eye on those other games.
Yes.
It's odd that in a year that there's been so many small teams beating the bigger teams, is that there's so many bad teams at the same time.
I think it's funny that all this money has been spent, and it's still not made a whole lot of difference for some of these teams.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
I mean,
you think all the money you spend, it makes you invincible against the bottom of the table. It doesn't. And that's the beauty of English Premier League soccer and just soccer in general.
And I've said it for years now. When a player comes into the Premiership who's never been there, it takes a solid year to get up to speed, pun intended, up to speed with the league, how physical and fast and just how multidimensional it is. And we've seen the big boys bring in players. Man City, for instance. It takes players a long time to get up to speed with the league, but up to speed with how Man City do things. And this takes a lot of time for players to come into a team and do this. And a good example is Nottingham Forest. They bought like 21 new players in from last year, and those players have not gelled together. Some of them have no experience inside the Premiership, so it was going to be a difficult year. I don't think that's the right thing to do. If you're going to bring players in, you got to bring players in who have a lot of experience in the league. And they didn't do that, and I think they could find themselves out of the league very quickly. A lot of people don't know this, but once you are relegated, you do get parachute payments, which help you. I believe it's $90 million over the course of 3 years. Yeah. Brooks, you have your hands up at the kids' table.
I do.
We talked about this, but go ahead.
I know, because I'm a kid, right? Danny Price coming in. Europa Conference could be a blow to West Ham staying up. Thursday, Sunday is a tough schedule. Do they drop points chasing a trophy? Could be.
That's a good point. I think they need to give up that trophy chase, play the kids there, hopefully lose, and then get back on track in the league. You're absolutely right, Danny. Another team that played in the Europa League this past week and dropped out was Arsenal. I may have had money on them to win, but because they're playing at home, and whoop, that didn't work.
Well, it was better than Dortmund and Schalke the other weekend, where you thought it was a sure thing.
God,
I'm sorry.
Listen, we could do an entire
Bad memories.
show on the bets that I have lost on these teams that should win. And I thought I was in position. I thought that was going to happen again today with the Man United Fulham game. And when I say a lot of money to me is $5. But I always make sure I get the bet into positive odds so that I can double that money. Yes, Arsenal win this past weekend. They did very well. 4-1, I believe. They won today. Let's make sure I get that right. That was today's score. They won. they crashed out of the Europa League. Probably for the best, to be honest, crashing out of the Europa League. Now they can focus on the Premiership. They went with a lineup that did not have Saka or Odegaard in it. They went with kind of a B squad lineup, or their B lineup, I will say, with some of the players who are normally on the bench. And I think that was to, one, show everybody, like, listen, we're focusing on the Premiership. We don't want to get any of these. But then Odegaard and Saka did come in when they went down, and then ended up losing 2-1. Interesting game. Ramsdale chipped from halfway.
Whoa.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
Oh.
You know what? And that's something I've actually I've been wondering a lot for a while now. Why don't players who have the ball win the ball when you gain possession around the halfway line? Go for it. Shoot. Because you know the goalies are standing at the top of their box or just outside of the top of their box.
Yeah.
Shoot. Shoot. Absolutely. Take a strike. Take a shot. Because you know what's going to happen?
Have you scored a goal like that?
I've actually put a game where I've scored 2 goals from halfway.
Whoa, Craig.
In the same half.
Whoa. When was this, Craig?
Carpathia Kickers were playing a team. I used to play for Carpathia Kickers, obviously.
Yes.
We were playing a team from Wisconsin that came into town. For
Bavarian?
U.S. Open Cup. No, it was U.S. Open Cup or something like that.
Yeah.
And this team was, they were good. They had some center backs who were monsters, and they kept fouling me. And I won the ball center half, at the center of the field twice, and I was like, well, I can see their goalie off, and I don't want to run and get kicked right now, so I'm just going to shoot. Did it the first time, back of the net. About 10 minutes later, I got the ball again. I was like, well, let's see if he's dumb enough to be off his line again. Sure enough, he was. We were up 2-0 at the half. I think we ended up winning 3-1.
And that was Story Time with Craig, sponsored by Next Level Training.
Exactly.
Yes.
Speaking of our sponsors and our friends, Soccer World. That's all I got. No, soccerworld.net. For all your soccer gear needs, listen, if you guys are in the Metro Detroit area and you are in the need for soccer gear, visit Soccer World, one of their 3 Metro Detroit locations. And if you're not in Metro Detroit, visit soccerworld.net. They've got all the soccer gear you could want. I think next week, Brooks, we're going to play a small game where I've got a $25 gift card.
Can we use the wheel of randomness?
Maybe. But anybody who's watching the live show can be entered to win the $25 gift card.
Ooh.
So we'll promote that a little bit. We'll sort out some of the rules, and we'll get that going.
Yeah.
Also, Next Level Training, Aaron Bird, his trainers, some of the best around. Absolute stud trainers, some of the best in the country. That's why all these players from around the country fly into Metro Detroit to train with Aaron and Next Level Training.
Yes.
They have a camp coming up soon for spring break. Sign your kid up now. Spots are limited. Next Level Training. Also, thank you to our friends over at superfanpacks.com. Appreciate the love you guys show for us. They share a lot of our stuff. They comment on all of our stuff in the Facebook group. If you are into sports cards and memorabilia, please visit superfanpacks.com. I've actually purchased a couple of items from them. Awesome stuff.
Yes.
Robert, are you into sports cards or sports memorabilia or anything like that?
A little bit. My son started to get into it. We actually, it was funny that Soccer World's your sponsor, because I actually took my kids up there to get Grandpa a present just yesterday. So a little tie-in there. But
what'd you buy?
Yeah, I got him a Three Lions zip-up spring jacket, nice blue one, and then I got him a travel mug with Liverpool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right.
And then, my Calvin, my son, he found the Premier League Panini cards.
Oh, they have a Premier League Panini book?
No, it didn't look like
the
almost like
stickers?
a treat, like a battle game, because they had the rankings
Yes.
for 96.
Those
attack.
are really popular. When I worked at Motor City Soccer, we sold a lot of those, and kids love, collecting them, trading them, playing games.
He's
They're
super into Pokemon. He's like,
Yeah.
he declared that he found a new collectible.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I might have to. That sounds awesome. I
Yeah.
want some of those. Is it Soccer World? I gotta
Right there at the front desk.
See, I
More
always
stuff
get up
for your
there.
kids to
I
buy.
get so much stuff from Soccer World,
Yeah.
man. I just skip over the little things, but I need to get in that.
I don't get over there too often, but when I do, it's like I feel like hugely nostalgic for when I lived in England in the 90s. One of my favorite things was to go to the soccer store
Yeah.
and see all the kits, see all the gear, because there's always gear like that. And that's a store that I remember going to in 1995, but they do such a good job.
You were over
there.
at
It's
the
really
Rochester store?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The main one, the OG.
Yeah, the original. That's where Brooks, you and I did our funny Soccer World video.
Yeah, go look at that one. That's a good
that's
one.
funny. That's a
Yes,
good one.
we'll have to do another one.
We do need to do some more videos.
Yeah.
All right, where were we?
EPL table. No, EPL. No, scores.
I
Yeah.
think there was some decent scores that happened this week.
FA Cup stuff, yeah.
I mean, listen. So FA Cup did interrupt the Premiership season. I do want to talk about some of the Premiership stuff. Man City winning 6-0.
Is it true no one likes Burnley?
No one's ever liked Burnley, have they?
I
It's
mean-
so weird that I like Vincent Kompany, so it's very conflicting that there's something I like that's like,
Why does no
related
one
to
like Burnley? Is
Well,
it the
actually-
town or the team?
Actually, I liked Tyler Boyd, but Stephen Boyd. He was a Peterborough Posh player
Oh, there you go.
who
Nice time.
was a Burnley player at his peak. So,
You know,
but that's
I
very
don't-
rarely.
Yeah, I've not heard this why a lot of people don't like Burnley. They do have a pretty good following. I do have a cousin-in-law who follows them and is a season ticket holder, so I might have to reach out and ask him that. But apparently the fans were a lot louder yesterday than the Man City fans, so all the Man United fans were clamoring that, oh, look at that, Man City fake.
Yeah.
At
Whatever.
City. At
Yeah,
City's
yeah.
game, Burnley was louder than them. Well, I mean, they're like a small town team that has found great success on modest budgets compared to others. So I guess I mean I could see
Absolutely.
why they'd have the heart of a lot of people to go and sing. I mean, to be fair, I mean you see the goal reactions at Manchester City Stadium. I mean when Haaland scored his 6-pack of goals or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you go to one of the other stadiums and people be like ripping their hair out.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Your brother Glenn Hearn likes Burnley, so that's some breaking news right there. But Ronaldo still sucks.
Ronaldo
Yes.
definitely sucks. Ronaldo scored a 40-yard free kick the other day. It was incredible until I watched it, and the goalie looked like he might have been 80, just falling over, not really diving at it.
Like that robot meme of
Yes, yes, that's how it looked. But let's get back to the FA Cup stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, Man United Fulham today at Old Trafford. This was a pretty crazy game, to be honest. Man United held on for the first 60 minutes and were saved by hero, and I say hero, David De Gea. Again, Man United's goalkeeper just comes up so huge. He is terrible with his feet, but I don't think there's a better goalkeeper with reactionary saves than David De Gea.
Oh, for sure.
He just kept them in it, and then Fulham go ahead, scoring, put themselves 1-0 up, and look like they're going to get a second. David De Gea makes 2 great saves to keep it at 1-0, and then all hell breaks loose. They go, Fulham get caught. Man United get on a 2-on-1 attack. Anthony Robinson kind of slows it up. Jadon Sancho pulls the ball back, goes to shoot. Willian comes across, stops the ball on the line with his hand.
I thought they got rid of Willian.
So,
No, he's on Fulham.
I thought Willian they got rid of.
Well, he got
came
red
back to
carded
Fulham.
today.
Yeah,
Oh.
he came back.
Wow.
So Willian
Yeah.
stops the ball, tries to lift his knee, and stops the ball with his hand on the line. There's only one outcome. The referee and the linesman did not see it initially. It did go to VAR. VAR got it 100% correct.
Oh, good.
Willian.
So you're happy
used-
today with VAR.
VAR did it right. Yeah, VAR
Okay,
VAR got it right today. There was
Yeah.
some mishaps yesterday, but
Breaking news: Greg is happy with VAR for
yes,
once.
definitely breaking news.
Yes.
Willian used his hand as there's one thing. It's a red card. It's a penalty. You're off. So while that's all happening, the referee goes over while he's looking at the VAR. One of the Fulham players starts yelling and screaming at him. So that's a red card. You're gone.
You can't do that anymore.
You definitely can't
You're
do
done.
that. Comes back
Yeah.
on this. Willian, yes, you used your hand to stop a goal.
Yep.
That's a red card. You're off. Mitrovic gets in the referee's face and then shoves him.
Oh.
I mean, not like
That's like
shoves
a,
him.
That's like a
but
4-game
shoves him.
suspension.
A little bit of a touch shove, and the referee just says, "You can't do that. Here's the red card. You're gone."
That's
And
terrible.
Then the
They're in
manager,
the hunt,
and then the
that's like a
Fulham manager
3-game
starts
suspension.
screaming, "That's a red card."
Wow.
So now Fulham, in one play, are down to 9 men on the field. Fernandez steps up, puts the ball in the back of the net,
Yeah.
and then after that they score 2 more, make it 3-1. I'm telling you right now, if Mitrovic is not suspended for multiple games. He needs to be sent in for 5, 6. It's a direct red, so it's an automatic 3.
Yes.
But you touched a referee.
Correct.
You got in the referee's face. The referee had to keep backing up to get away from Mitrovic.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We need multiple games. I won't be happy unless there's 6, 7, 8 games involved. He needs to be made a less. What's the saying I'm looking for? Needs to be an example
of. Yeah.
Make an example of him. You cannot touch an official.
Yeah.
Kids are watching this game. Around the world, there are multi-millions of people watching this game.
Yes.
And he touched a referee. And he was angry. Give that man, suspend him for the rest of the year. I do not care. Suspend him. He's a dirty cheat. You cannot touch referees.
So I approve of, you can't touch a referee for one. And then 2, I approve of the new rule of them, refs and the referee associations across the world cracking down on players getting around a referee and trying to talk when he's on his headset trying to talk to the other refs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am 100% for this. It's, you're 30 yards in the play. You have no reason to argue, especially when it was clear as day, especially with this Willian, that, this call against Willian, that he was clearly keeping the ball in the net, which is really stupid because at that point it was only going to be 1-1 at that point. I mean,
right.
What was the point to do that? And you just put your team in a hole. I mean, how does this affect them how's it going to affect them for league play? I mean, this is not good. Fulham was in the hunt for a lot of stuff, and this could easily turn it south.
Now they're missing 2 starters, Willian and Mitrovic. William has been playing phenomenal for them this year, creating and slicing the ball up in the air for Mitrovic, who scores most of their goals, his main center focus. They're both out for the next 3 games. Mitrovic, as we said, should be out more. Sorry, Fulham. I don't care. I do not care. I hope they drop like a stone and Villa overtake them.
What do you think, Robert? How bad is this for Fulham?
Oh, this actually could really curtail their push for the top 4. I was just double checking that an FA Cup red card translates over to a suspension in the Premier League, and it looks like it does. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, he's their main goal scorer, and he does a lot to open up room for others. He occupies the center backs really well, and Fulham have had, probably their best ever season. Yep. I'm no historian, but they've been pretty darn remarkable this year, and it would be a bummer if this is kind of what takes the steam out of their engines.
Yeah, and let's make no bones about it. Mitrovic might be a cheat and might be, let's just say, a horrible person for what he did. I do not like him. There's been a lot of games. He's a cheat and a horrible person. But he is a very good player. Yes. He's a good hold-up player. He's brilliant in the air. He scores a lot of goals. This absolutely could curtail their season, and really, this is going to cost them a lot of money because they will drop without him. There's a lot to get to today, boys. Why don't we do Champions League draw that came out? The Champions League quarterfinal draw that came out this past week. Some interesting lineups, some interesting matchups, I should say, excuse me. Real Madrid, Chelsea. Real Madrid obviously being the favorites. That's a pretty saucy draw right there. Benfica, Inter Milan, okay teams. Man City, Bayern Munich. That one right there, I personally was hoping that would be the final. I was hoping we would find a way to maybe work it so that the final was Man City versus Bayern.
I think Nate was in favor of this one when we were in our group chat.
Yes, I mean this is right there is the matchup of the quarterfinals.
Yep. João Cancelo against his former team.
Yeah,
and they allowed to play. Yeah,
he can play. Just a little note on that. Yes, João Cancelo has gone over to Bayern Munich. He has not been playing well. Mm-hmm. Nagelsmann's come out and said, actually, he doesn't fit into my system, so he's probably not going to play very much. And because he costs it's going to cost us 70 million euros.
Yes.
To buy him at the end of the year. That's too expensive for a guy who doesn't fit into my system, so we're probably going to send him back.
Yes.
So that's probably not going to happen. I don't see anything coming of that.
Did you see the stuff with him about Nagelsmann's pissed off that someone inside leaked their tactic information, apparently?
Was that for today's game where they lost?
I saw it on social media that he was very upset that someone posted on social media their tactic stuff, and
I've not seen that. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then the other matchup is AC Milan versus Napoli.
Italy, the pizza final.
Yeah, you've got the two Italian clubs there. Yeah. Napoli should win based on how they've been going this year, but you never know.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, Chelsea, and Man City, Bayern are probably the two big games that I think everybody's going to look forward to. So, those don't happen for a couple of weeks now, but I did want to mention those. If I did have to, Robert, ask you, based on how teams are going right now, who's going to win the Champions League, buddy? Who takes it? Who is playing the best soccer and can see it through to the end of the year?
I'm kind of thinking that Napoli's having a magic year.
I'm not going to go there.
I think the final is going to be Real Madrid versus Napoli.
That'd be interesting.
Depending on draws and whatnot, but I think that would be awesome. And, there's a romance in the air with Maradona teams. Argentina won in the year of his passing, and then Napoli is probably going to win their first league title since he was on the Napoli squad. So I feel like those would be, amazing achievements, and then it's purely written in the stars if Napoli makes the final.
I do like that. I watched the El Clasico today, Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Real Madrid have struggled against Barcelona this year, and they've struggled in certain games, but other games they've very flourished. One against your Liverpool, not to bring it up, but in that 5-2 thrashing at Anfield, they looked unstoppable. And then they go and do silly things and play poorly. So I really thought Real Madrid early in the year, they were looking so good. I thought they could go win this again, but I really don't think they will. I like the Napoli shout. I really like the Napoli shout. They have been playing phenomenally. They've got 3 or 4 just phenomenal players that, woof, who won't be there at the end of the year, right? They're going to get purchased. A midfielder who's very creative and dynamic, whose name escapes me at the moment, and then USMNT, he'll be gone.
Yep.
But I like the Napoli shout, but I think it's going to be Man City, who I think they'll find a way to take it this year. I think they'll although I called that last year and the year before and was wrong. So what do I know? But it is interesting.
What any of us know.
Yeah, what do we all know, right?
We're just
guessing.
Amateur pundits.
From week to week,
I don't know.
these teams are so just different, like we said, and I hate to keep using the Liverpool, right?
I'd rather be that
7-0
way
and
than
lose
already
1-0.
know. I'd rather be like that than we know
I
the
agree.
results are
I
going to
agree.
happen.
I think your point about Real Madrid is like them being, magical and then way low, like up and down. I think that speaks to our conversation about the Premier League too, and that might have to do something with the busyness of the schedule, still haven't gotten a break since the COVID stuff, and then the mid-season World Cup. I think the teams that had a lot of World Cup players are struggling for consistency because they just don't have it to do it every game now. And
That's
the
what
Premier
Nate
League's
said.
been weird. There was a whole lot of World Cup players in the Premier League.
Yep.
And then you look at the top teams, like you said, Madrid. I just think that's where the inconsistency comes. But there's seriously magic dust on Real Madrid. All the things that tell you the teams, should be moving on, rebuilding to a new generation, and their stars are old. But, last year, they have three goal comebacks in the knockout stages?
It was incredible
They just
how often they come back.
just had magic on them, and it seems like whenever it comes down to that winning
tournament,
game or the time when they absolutely have to win, they just do.
You're not wrong. They very well could pull it out, put everything together, and win another Champions League title.
Against all logic,
Against
they
all
just
odds.
will do it.
Always.
They very well could. Now, we've had this conversation with Nate several times, and I think we all agree on it, but the fact that an English team hasn't really dominated in the Champions League for the past forever, really, is it because that the Premiership is such a strong league that, as we said earlier, week to week, you could be winning 3-0 and then losing the next week against a bottom team because it's so tough and so difficult that then in the middle of that you've got to go play against a Real Madrid or a Benfica or a Napoli or a Bayern Munich. It makes it so tough that you don't get a week of, here comes Köln or here comes Schalke or Stuttgart who suck.
Gonna say that when Nate's not here, just right to the gut.
Is it that a Premiership team hasn't really dominated and gone on to win because the league is so difficult, their home domestic league is so difficult?
Yeah, I think there was at times where you could say that, they're beating each other up and whatnot. But I'll contest. I'll throw Liverpool has been to 3 finals in the last 5 years. So I wouldn't call it domination, but they're definitely one of the major players in that competition. But I mean, I don't think that you can. I mean, what team is really as consistent as Real Madrid on getting to these finals?
They've always been.
It hasn't been
I mean, they know how to do it, and I just think every team has a cycle, and in it very rarely does a team win the league and the cup at the same time, and it seems like the cup is either the step on the ascent to winning the league title or what they were able to do on the way down after winning a league title.
Correct.
And, back in the day when Madrid won the 3 in a row, I think Barcelona won the leagues all in those years. So, I mean, it's been back and forth in the Premier League for the last few years between Liverpool and Manchester City. So I think those things go hand in hand, that those years where they're alternating just don't line up. And outside of the Madrid, I don't think anyone really is dominant in that competition.
I am. I mean, it's like I said, all these FA Cup, Carabao Cup, League, and then you get thrown into Champions League. It doesn't help. That's
Carabao's
why,
gotta go.
Get rid of the Carabao Cup.
Nobody cares
if you
about
want
the
a
Cup.
lower cup one or whatever that you want the championship and lower division teams to play in or whatever, go for it. Or the winner of that plays in the whatever and someone in the Premier. I don't know. Whatever you want to do, but. It's that I think that's what's always holding back is like Danny always, when he was talking about a couple weeks ago Man United and just some of the other stuff is just like when you're playing all those competitions and like I said you don't have depth, it's just it ties you up. You know what I mean? It ties you up. You're relying on players. The legs are heavy. It's a World Cup year, especially this year. So, and it was in a different time. So it's really difficult. And
You're right. The Carabao Cup needs to go, but unfortunately there's a lot of money tied to it, and there's probably a contract signed for X amount of years, and that won't disappear because, the Premiership likes money, and that's how that works, right?
Yeah. Being from the UK, there's a lot of weight goes behind it's traditional.
Yeah.
Just
it
because
really
it's been
traditional?
done, undoing that doesn't
How
really
long's the
happen over
Carabao
there.
Cup been around?
Well, it's changed names, right? Like Carabao is the sponsor.
Yes.
but
There's
the
always
League
been
Cup.
a sponsored just League Cup.
Yeah,
Like
it's always-
Coca-Cola Cup, Milk Cup. It's been a million different things.
I would always just FA Cup, the original OG one, and just forget about anything.
Oh, that's what it should be for sure. It's congestion. Yeah, that's probably like a simplistic answer. It's like
exactly.
why have teams consistently had a hard time getting to the the end? Is because they have so much fixture congestion. And was it Mourinho always used to complain about how they do get no breaks leading up to a midweek European fixture, while like Germany or Spain would do them a favor, move it a day or even postpone it.
Yes.
Yeah, they get no help whatsoever from the league because the league needs to get so many games in and welcome to the Premiership. That's why it's so tough and so
No break in the-
I think there's
No
also
Christmas
this
break.
romanticism of there has been a couple times in these competitions where you've had a championship team getting to the final against the EPL team and I get it. This is why people argue about MLS and not seeing enough lower league stuff. That's why the US Open Cup gets so much. Orlando City, Sac Republic, last year we watched it. A lot of people watched it. I wanted to see Sacramento Republic put up a darn good fight and beat Orlando City. Didn't happen, but that's the romantic part about soccer in the world is that a lower division team, because baseball minor league teams don't play against MLB teams. There's the G League and NBA, but they don't play any NBA teams. And there's really, what are you going to take the XFL, play the NFL or something winner or whatever? That's just, watch the NFL and XFL do that. But everyone's like, why do I care about the XFL? I guess the people in St. Louis, they had 30-some thousand the other week or whatever. But just the romanticism of a team that doesn't have a lot of money that goes against the big boys, the David versus Goliath. You can see that in the English Premier in England, which is really beautiful.
That's why the FA Cup, they love it.
Yeah.
Well, to your point of the more games and not more players, is I think coming more domestically, I think the MLS teams are going to have a hard time with the Leagues Cup that's going to happen this summer because they got a whole lot more games on their plate.
It's 60 games potentially you could play this year.
They don't have
the League
more
Cup,
players.
US Open Cup, and CONCACAF Champions League if you're in there, and then MLS regular season.
Right.
So it's starting to get that way.
And expanded playoffs.
Yep,
Yes.
and expanded playoffs. Man, the games just come thick and fast, no matter what league you're in this year.
It's
And,
not even just holidays. It's
not
just,
even, yeah. It's absolutely nutty. You know what, boys? We've been going at this for an hour. What we're gonna do is gonna take a quick 3 or 4 minute break here. Everybody, go get another beer, get some chips, get some peanuts, whatever it is you're into, and come right back and join us. Because on the other side of the break, we are talking about the Christian Pulisic ESPN interview. We're going to talk about US men's national team roster, which for games that are happening in the next week, MLS history that was made. We will also talk about Ted Lasso. Yeah, no spoilers, because the first episode did drop this past week. We'll talk La Liga table, Bundesliga table, and the Michigan Soccer Central and We Are Soccer Team of the Week. And maybe a little Detroit City FC. So get your beer, get you some new chips, and then we will be right back, folks.
Tempo, yes, drop out, good, yes, touch play, right foot, yes, scan, good, touch in, play, drop your hip, right, yes, good scan, yes, Jay, well done, good side on touch, play, see it, yes.
Brooks. We're at our favorite store, Soccer World in Rochester. We're just gonna do some light shopping. Nothing big. Ooh, pretty colors. Oh, and one of these too?
Ooh, Germany. Nate would like this.
Hey Brooks, look at all these. Look what I got.
South America. Ooh. Wow, that's not MLS. Ugh.
Socks? No.
Ooh, a ball pump.
Next in line.
Sir, you're next.
Right. That's a mannequin. You know that.
Huh?
It's a mannequin.
Oh. Sorry, sir.
Craig, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Huh?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. Hopefully you got a drink. Hopefully you got some chips, got something there. We got lots to talk about this side of the break. By the way, again, a big thank you to some of our friends who've helped us get this far. Soccer World, visit them on soccerworld.net. All your soccer gear needs, they've got what you need. Next Level Training, Aaron Bird and his training staff, some of the best around. Those dudes are just good guys, but man, they are great soccer trainers. Next Level Training is where you can find them here in Metro Detroit. And superfanpacks.com for all your sports cards and memorabilia. Sports memorabilia. I personally have purchased a few cards and some, signed memorabilia pieces. Yeah. Man, they got everything. There's a real nice one I'm eyeing, but got to save some pennies for that. It's very good. All right, Team of the Week. One of my favorite segments that we do here at We Are Soccer. So the We Are Soccer, a Michigan Soccer Central Team of the Week. Let's put up that little graphic here. This week's Michigan Soccer Central and We Are Soccer Team of the Week is the Nationals G8 2008 Blue Girls Team. They are back-to-back national champions. Congratulations, girls. They won. They won the U15 GA national title yesterday and their second national title in a row. Just an amazing accomplishment. I spoke a couple of weeks ago to David Robertson, who is of the National GA director over there, and man, he could not stop talking about these young ladies and this team, and for a reason, two national titles in a row. That is amazing. We also have a big shout out to the Oakland University men's team. Brooks, what did they went and did some community service?
Yeah, they went to an elementary. They went to elementary school to do some, reading with the kids and just kind of, interacting and helping out. If they did need tutoring, I'm not sure, but I know they did visit an elementary school and they do that. And also the great thing that the men's soccer team has been posting as well is they do go out and they do support the other athletic teams.
Saw that they were out at like the diving or the women's swimming.
Tennis, I think.
Tennis was it? Something.
Yeah.
They go out and support the other Oakland athletic teams.
Yes.
Very good. Eric Pogue has got that team. Man, just good people, good human beings, and it's awesome to see them do that.
Yes.
You had a shout out to give as well, did you not, Brooks?
Oh, yeah. Congrats to Rapid City FC and Lewis Stevens, who I know, former Michigan State men's soccer player.
Go Green.
Go White. And then a guy I knew when I was a journalism major covering men's and women's soccer games. He did the PA announcing. But as Lewis started, it's the Major Indoor Soccer League, or Major League Indoor Soccer. All those different ones they have. Major League Indoor Soccer. They won the Eastern Conference today. I don't believe, Robert, if you concur, there won't be playoffs, correct?
Yeah, that's when I was messaging with Lewis a week or two ago. He said that there was not as he understood at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But they went on an unbelievable tear, winning games. They dropped their I think one of their first matches and then won it out the rest of the way.
Yes. So congrats to him. And that's a small indoor soccer league slowly getting built. Obviously, MASL, the Major Arena Soccer League, is the big one. But that is another one. The Major League. Yes. Yeah. God, I always do that. It's getting there.
Congratulations to Lewis Stevens and the Rapid City team.
Yeah.
And also congratulations, we'll put the graphic up here again, to our team of the week, the National GA 2008 Blue Girls team. Congratulations, ladies. You guys should be very proud of yourselves. We are here at We Are Soccer and Michigan Soccer Central. Very proud of you guys. If you have a team that you would like to nominate for next week's Team of the Week, you can hit up We Are Soccer or Michigan Soccer Central on any of our social channels. Just drop us a line, drop us a tag, a mention. Let us know who you think should be next week's Team of the Week. All right, guys, lots to get to. There was a big interview that dropped this past week. Christian Pulisic sat down with ESPN and did a 40-minute interview. He talked about everything from the World Cup to the Reynas and Berhalter situation to the U.S. soccer head coaching situation. He talked about a lot of different things. He talked about it, but he didn't kind of take sides, which I thought was good. He did come out and say, listen, I'm not going to be the one appointing the next the head coach. I'm not going to be appointing the next sporting director, but I feel we need to get this done as quick as possible because one of the most important times in our soccer history is now. We are 3.5 years away from the next World Cup, which is here in North America, as we all know. Robert, I know you listened to almost all of this interview with Christian Pulisic. What is your big takeaway, man? What's your big takeaway from this?
Well, it definitely seemed like it was a puff piece, a bit of a good PR for him when he put himself in the shop window, show that he can really kind of toe the line, so to speak. He didn't have any want away sort of speech. He didn't really throw anyone under the bus. He really had a lot of good political answers, and the interviewer Graham Hunter kind of cracked me up. He definitely had a funny way of addressing sensitive topics without ever really putting them into a corner.
Yep.
But there was a couple moments where they kind of broke through that, and Pulisic kind of got real a little bit more, where he had to address Berhalter. And one moment he referenced he didn't really tell me what I wanted to hear. There was after he got benched, he almost said I wanted to kill him, but then he got more measured, and was I didn't necessarily agree, but then a couple games later I had an even better game and and so he got a little bit more real there. There was one moment where he said Greg's even lucky to be in the position that he is, which he said kind of in a stream of consciousness answer, which I thought was a little bit of a tell. And then another moment that I thought was good, where it was both a political answer and a real answer, when the interviewer asked Pulisic about the GeoGate situation.
Yes.
And he basically cut him off. He addressed it by saying hey, that was childish. I think he said it was childish youth soccer behavior.
Those were his words. Yep.
So that was good. He didn't blame anybody, but basically everybody involved was that this is all nonsense. This is childlike behavior, and it's the fact that it's in around us is ridiculous. And then this is a little bit off topic, but there was a funny little jibe that Graham Hunter, the interviewer, threw in. He was talking about how Pulisic seemed like such a dedicated individual. You never see him going out to the clubs or doing anything crazy, or going out and skiing during the season, which I thought was a wild out of left field jibe at Manuel Neuer.
I was about to say, is that a Manuel Neuer jab?
I don't know.
You shouldn't be, you know, that. Why does Graham Hunter have something against Manuel Neuer and Bayern Munich?
Yeah, I don't know if he's got a history. Apparently, he said that he lives in Spain, so maybe there's an anti-Bayern sort of a sentiment to him. But it was wild, out of nowhere. It's you wouldn't do anything ski in the season.
Or maybe he knows Pulisic was skiing and brought it up. Hey, you wouldn't do that.
But, it was kind of a random pull.
One of the things I took away from this interview was, one, why give this interview now? What's the point, right? There's no real point because he did kind of step into it a little bit, I want to say. And now all of a sudden he's coming back into U.S. men's national team into the camp with those guys, and Reyna's going to be there. So he doesn't really have to explain himself to Gio Reyna, but kind of called his family childish, called the situation childish, which really incorporate. Why give it now? Why not give it after? I don't understand the timing.
I think it's to get people talking about the international break, get somebody, a player, to talk about the situation, because as far as I'm aware of, no players have really commented on it. No. So he kind of maybe gets that out of the way for other people. Mm-hmm. I think it puts himself in the shop window
for a sale in the summer because he wants to move. And Chelsea want him to move because they know they can get a good piece of money for him.
Everybody's best interest for him to look good on a big platform. And then it also brings up, references people like, oh, yeah, there is an international break as well.
That's true. One of the other pieces I took away from this interview was it did feel like he might be on the pro Greg Berhalter side. For me, it felt like he was not petitioning for Berhalter, but saying, listen, what we were doing was very good. He had us going in the right direction. Everybody bought in. Yep. I think he was done wrong by what happened. It felt like it was a little bit, if he had to choose, he chose that he was going to go with the Berhalter side. Now, Brooks and I had a conversation with a player on the U.S. men's national team several months ago. Once this whole Reyna news broke, we talked to a specific individual who we won't name, and he said the same thing. The entire team bought into what Berhalter was selling. Yeah. It's unfortunate it's what happened. He would like to see Berhalter come back. And this was off the record, by the way. This wasn't an interview. This is us just sitting down. Yep. So now we've heard two players, one off the record, one on the record, kind of putting his foot in, saying it's unfortunate what happened to Berhalter. Yeah. He had us going in the right direction. We were making great strides.
Tim Ream kind of said it a bit. He was
on his podcast, right?
He was uncertain going into it because he was like, am I going to be a part of it or whatnot? But then he kind of started to buy into what Berhalter was selling. So
it's interesting because we had this debate a couple of months back about whether Berhalter should be brought back, whether he could. And Brooks, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you and Nate went with the no, let's bring someone different and fresh in. Yeah. And I went with the no, I want Berhalter back. I was never a fan of his, and I didn't agree with all of his choices, but I think they made great strides and they won some trophies with him.
And they admitted that. I think Pulisic admitted there was great strides that were made. It was different.
And he also talked about the trophies they won, right? And beating their arch rivals twice.
Yes, which is very, it's usually we lose most of the time.
Right.
Yes.
It's interesting. I think if USA Soccer were to go and ask Pulisic, who, in my opinion, is one of the leaders of this team, I think he would say, yeah, I would like him back. Now, it's not up to him. He made that very clear.
Yes.
But it was very interesting. It was just a good interview, I think. I need to read his book. I would love to read Christian Pulisic's book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah?
I have not read it yet. I should.
I guess I've never felt compelled to read a player's book, but especially not a young player's book.
Someone so young in their career, right? Yeah. Right. I've read a lot of autobiographies, but it's usually guys who've retired.
Yeah, they've been out of the game for like 10, 15 years, and they want to talk about their
Based on this interview, I now actually want to go read his book, though.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys had the same. You're like, no, I'm not going to read a 200-page book.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like with the Pulisic stuff, the interview, I think it was important for someone else to come out and say something, and that they were in support of their coach. Because it's always like, when they say it during qualifying in World Cup, it's like, oh, it's a fluff piece, like they're just saying it because, and we on the outside have our theories and conspiracies and all that stuff of like what's happening inside and whatnot, and it's important just for someone like him to come out and say that, and then to Tim Ream to make that note, and then for us, who we talked to before, that it was a consensus that they thought he did very well, that things were turning, and I'm actually curious if this hadn't happened with what the Reynas did, if, he probably would have gotten resigned and, maybe looking at a different story, but unfortunately, and the sad part is, the two of them have known each other, Reyna and Claudio and Greg have known each other for a very long time.
30+ years, yeah.
And that this had to happen, and this kind of like, whether this soiled the relationship or what it was with, Sebastian and the Austin FC stuff, because Claudio's the technical director there. Whatever it was that kind of soiled it to make this happen. And then obviously all the other stuff you read about with Gio and the younger teams, them being very, hovering over what was happening with their son, with the travel and the food and the playing time and everything. But it is sad to see someone like Claudio Reyna, that to be done, and to kind of tarnish what people thought of you as maybe, a U.S. men's national team player. And it'll be very difficult for Greg to get another job because of what happened. And really, he took the proper precautions of what he needed to do. Both went to their college coaches and they told him about the situation. And everyone's going to say, well, it wasn't reported. Well, things aren't really reported back then, but I'm just saying that the proper things were happening. He took the right steps, and nothing has happened since.
Let's talk about the Alston and Bird report that did come out a couple of weeks ago in a minute. I do want to quickly, before we jump into that, finish up the Berhalter the Pulisic interview and what Robert, as I said a couple of minutes ago, in my opinion, it sounds like he was almost waving a flag and saying, I'm supporting Christian Pulisic, I'm a leader, I'm supporting I'm supporting Berhalter. Maybe you guys should look at him again.
Yep.
What are your thoughts? You think that he was doing that, or?
I think that if you think about that, this could be their boss, and they're in an unusual situation where their old boss might still be their new boss. So other than some people in maybe like a Jermaine Jones sort of character, I don't think anyone's just going to be like, no, man, he's trash, get out of here.
Right.
And I think they could. It almost like more like hedging his bets. Like, hey,
he's not ruled out of the.
He's not ruled out, so he may very well be. And I
do
think that, with how there's been a delay and all this stuff, it didn't seem like U.S. Soccer had another plan lined up.
Right.
Like, it seems like they were gonna, what do you call it? Extend him.
Yes.
So I think they probably do end up extending him after all this.
Do you? That was my next question. So, one, would you like to see him come back? And two, do you see him coming back?
Well, the thing is, I think they totally would have. If this whole thing didn't blow up, I think he's for sure we would have heard right around Christmas that
they extended the contract to the end of the 2026 World Cup. Right?
Yep.
That's what probably would have happened had the Reynas not been so childish. I'll use Christian Pulisic's words.
Before the what have you began.
Yeah.
But as far as the replacement, I would be pro a new coach, but it's really hard to think of how many viable candidates there really are.
Right.
And I'm sure there could be an American coach in the American soccer coaching sphere that we don't know about that might be the right guy, but of the popular mainstream figures, I don't know who would be the one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's fair.
Now let's touch base on what you just kind of got into there, Brooks. The Alston and Bird report. Yeah. This is the official report. The U.S. Soccer Alston and Bird is the we'll say law firm or a company, whatever they are.
Yeah. They investigated.
Did the investigation of what happened with the U.S. men's national team situation. Claudio and Danielle, is that her name? I read her name 100 times.
Danielle Reyna.
The Reynas, and what they did in December, and brought up, how they contacted Ernie Stewart about Greg Berhalter and said, we've got news and information that could take down Greg Berhalter. So obviously they were not happy that their son Gio Reyna was not getting playing time in the World Cup. Everybody was not happy that he wasn't getting playing time, but unfortunately that is the coach's opinion and discretion to not play him, and he didn't play him. He didn't think he was fit enough. Was there some sort of personal vendetta? We do not know, but he did not play Gio Reyna, and then all of a sudden the Reynas, Claudio and Danielle, start making text messages and phone calls to Ernie Stewart, who was the sporting director, the general manager, sporting director, whatever it is, head of U.S. Soccer, close to the top of U.S. Soccer. Now, listen, the report goes into very good detail of who they interviewed. They interviewed Greg Berhalter. They sent him an email at 3 o'clock. He responded and said, I'm available at 6 o'clock this evening, and gave a full interview. His wife then the next day gave a full interview of the incident that happened over 30 years ago. They interviewed the head coaches of North Carolina UNC. The both Greg
No,
Berhalter
one of them, Elmer Bolovich, refused to do it. Did Dorrance do it?
But did speak.
Yeah.
Said, listen, what happened was in the past.
Yeah.
I don't need to go into it. I agree with what the other head coach said.
Yep.
The Reynas were contacted. Claudio Reyna declined interview. Danielle Reyna hung up the phone the first time, but then called back and said, I've said all I need to say, kind of giving up. They tried to keep interviewing Claudio. He gave up in the end, and no one could do. What Greg Berhalter did was not right, but he took care of the situation.
Yeah.
That should not stop him from being a candidate for the U.S. men's national team job. And at the end of the report, it did say this does not disqualify him and should not disqualify him from being a candidate for this job.
Yep.
It was a very thorough report. I started reading it and thought, man, I'm going to be bored senseless of this. But to be honest, all 30 or 40 pages, whatever it was, I read every word. It was excellent. It was really well written. I thought it was great. And right, it went into little pieces of what happened. The Greg Berhalter comes out of it looking like a good guy. He just did something wrong. The Reynas come out of this looking terrible. They come out of this looking like spoiled parents who want their son to play more, and I'll use Christian Pulisic's words again, childish. How dare they do this? You know, this is something that happens at youth soccer level, not at the top of the pyramid of soccer. This is ridiculous. Claudio Reyna trying to use his power in U.S. men's soccer, within USA soccer, to get his son more playing time.
I don't know if this was the exact one, but did you read? I read John Hackworth, who coached a little collegiately. He was the head coach of the Union for a little bit, and he's kind of bounced around. He's been USL coach. Now he's with the USL2 team in St. Louis City. But he came out, and it was a Soccer America piece, or someone wrote, and he talked about, or maybe it's ESPN that interviewed him, and they talked about a situation where there was like a dad at like, or a mom and dad at like, for a kid that was in the U16 or U17 national team, and they didn't like where the kid was being played. And he's like, no, my son's a forward. And Hackworth was just like chuckle. He's like this is the youth national team system. Like, you play where I'm going to put you, or you can go bye-bye.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that. This is the joke of like parents getting into the you know, this is absurd. And why are parents really talking to youth national team coaches as well? Like, I don't know if that's really a thing that needs to be done as well. You know, that's between the player and the youth national team
coach,
right? It just shows
that no matter what level, right? Your U8 kid or your U16 national level or full U.S. men's national team level, it's still going to happen. One thing I'd like, okay, the report is what it is. I think everybody should read it. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Not going to let you know anything different other than what happened, right? The Reynas come out looking like garbage. The Berhalters come out looking like there was a mistake made 30 years ago. They've made amends, and they're good family people. One thing that has come out that I want to know is, why hasn't Gio Reyna come out and said anything? Why hasn't he come out and said, listen, I don't agree with what my parents did. They wanted the best for me. It is what it is. We've put it behind us. I'm just going to move forward no matter who the coach is. I'm going to do the best I can. I just want to play soccer, and I want to compete, and I want to compete at the best. And whether I'm representing my country, however, whatever, I just want to play, and I want to make everybody proud. Why has he not come out and said anything? Just come out and say something.
Why don't you go ask Dan Siegel, his agent? He'll tell you.
I mean, does it not bother anybody else? Is it just me? Like, come out and say something.
I mean,
I'm sure it's a pretty awkward spot to like be in the firing line of your parents and like the media and all that stuff. Hey, and maybe he gets a cozy sit down on a big couch, you know, in the next couple of weeks during this camp.
Do you think maybe that's what he's kind of aiming for? Some cash, so sit down on an Oprah type couch?
I mean, maybe. I mean,
everybody would tune in. I would tune in. Would you guys not tune in?
It could well be. I mean,
I watch the highlights.
It's real housewives of national
US
team
soccer.
soccer. So people like those shows.
It really is.
The Real Housewives.
It really is. It's unfortunate. It has put we'll say, black eye on U.S. soccer, though, in my opinion.
Just when they had started getting back in people's good books.
I know.
It's just it's all U.S. soccer. I mean, listen, every federation has its ups and downs.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you could tell you two could tell me about the England one. Nate can go on about Germany, what he doesn't like, and it's hard to run something fairly when someone with political motives comes in, or vendettas against people it's just when that stuff starts going and starts flying around, unfortunately, a huge change needs to be made within the system. So that
you're absolutely not wrong, because England had theirs a couple of years back. Robert, you're gonna remember who was the coach who said that certain people come back from a different life with disabilities because they did something in a previous life, and then he was probably fired, and then that's how Southgate got in, I believe. His face is on.
Big mind. Sam got fired for some sort of
taking illegal payments.
Yes.
Yeah, he took illegal payments. And that's how Southgate got in.
Yes.
Right. But there was the former Tottenham player who was the coach, midfielder, wildly good midfielder who played for Tottenham for several years, and then made a comment about handicapped people. Oh my gosh!
I have to look this one up.
Look him up. Former England national team manager who was fired.
Terry Venables or something? Like you going way back?
No, he was young at the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick myself. If anybody knows, go ahead and put it in the comments. Appreciate it. See if you can beat Brooks to looking it up. But yeah, every single soccer federation has issues. This is just the USA Soccer one at the moment. And a couple of years back, it was Berhalter getting hired. People, well, how did he get hired? Was it because his brother was here and so high up? There's things that happen in every soccer federation, but this is not a time for USA Soccer to look bad. Because, as I said, 3.5 years away from one of the biggest history events in USA Soccer is the World Cup coming here, and we are going to be the host of one of the biggest tournaments ever. We need to get this stuff figured out. They still don't have a sporting director. They still don't have a general manager. They don't have a head coach. They got a lot of work to do. Pulisic alluded to that. It's not his job. His job to step on a field. Hopefully, they can get all these positions in place because there's games coming up. And right now, Anthony Hudson is in place. And there are games coming up for the Nations League tournament. No one cares about the Nations League, but the roster did drop this past week. March 24th, USA men's national team visit Grenada. 3 days later, they're home in Orlando to El Salvador. Not exactly the toughest of opponents, but opponents nonetheless. We do want to get wins. We'll just quickly run through some of the roster. Ethan Horvath, Zach Steffen, Matt Turner. Matt Turner has to be the starter. He's been playing very well when he does step on the field for Arsenal. Zach Steffen, by the way, who is playing in Middlesbrough. They believe Middlesbrough are into
third.
They're third now?
Yeah, they're competing to be promoted.
He has been playing nonstop and playing very well. Yeah. But he did have that little blip where he said, no, I want to be on the U.S. men's national team for the World Cup.
Yeah.
New coach, comes back in. Now, obviously, interim coach. He is back. Defenders Serginho Dest, Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Brian Reynolds, Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson. Good to see him back after his injury of last year. Joe Scally, Borussia Mönchengladbach, has been playing very well there in the Bundesliga. Austin Trusty, playing for Birmingham City, who suck. But Austin Trusty's been playing very well.
Hey, he's on loan. He's on loan from Arsenal, so okay.
I know.
At least it's not Manchester United.
Birmingham City still suck, though.
It's not Manchester United that he's on loan from. That'd have been a double negative for you.
Yeah, I would probably find him and do... Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways, Austin Trusty has been playing very well. He's the shining light of that piece of garbage team in Birmingham City. Brendan Aronson, Leeds, back in the team here. Johnny Cardasso from Internacional of Brazil. Luca Del Torre steps back in, who's been playing a lot of minutes at Celta Vigo. Weston McKinney, also at Leeds, back in. Yunus Musa, Valencia, back in. Alan Sonora, back
Juarez.
in. Juarez? What?
That's where he's playing in Liga MX.
Oh, I was about to say, what? No, yes. He's playing in Liga MX. In the forwards, Taylor Booth, who I do not know a ton about, but I'd like to know in a minute from you two gentlemen a little bit more about Taylor Booth. Daryl DK, one of my favorite players, is back in, finally scoring goals for West Brom, doing very well there in the championship for West Brom there. Yeah. Jordi Mihalovic steps in, as today was called in from AZ Alkmaar because Tim Weah dropped out yesterday, who had a Pretty bad injury. He is now in concussion protocol. So Tim Weah takes a little bit of a break. Jori Mihalovic steps in. Ricardo Pepi back in the squad.
Yep.
He's been scoring goals for FC Groningen in the Netherlands. Christian Pulisic, healthy again, started yesterday for Chelsea. Good to see. Didn't play super well, but he's back in the squad. Giovani Reyna back in the squad after what we just talked about. Good to see him back. Hopefully all goes well there.
Yep.
He has not been getting a ton of minutes at Borussia Dortmund, though. Things have not been going super well. He did step back in and play for Borussia Dortmund's game in the Champions League at Chelsea. Thought he played well. He only played because it was an injury, but he did play very well. Alex Zendejas steps in. Hopefully he can make his first official competitive cap there. He does have a cap, but it's not official, isn't it? Friendly. All right, boys. Your thoughts on the roster that was called up there?
I like it. I think it's a little different. There are some players I don't care for. Just some of the comments, though, just like we've talked about. So Steven Aversa says, think there's too many meaningless games played by the U.S. men's national team. They get tons of wins all year. They get beat in the big games. Well, this is actually a competition.
Nations League, yep.
This is a Nations League competition.
Cares about the Nations League. It is still
I get that. It's still a competition.
Still competitive.
It is. And
there's a trophy to be run, right?
Yes.
People will be mad if they lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
You're not wrong.
So, so for me, just back to the players. So I'm excited to see Giovani Mihalovic. I think he had a good spell at the end after leaving Chicago Fire and got into Montreal, changed up a little bit, playing for Thierry Henry and Wilfred Nancy. So that'll be a good one. And then I would like to see Daryl DK back again. He's been doing well for West Brom Albion. So I think that'll be an interesting one to see. I honestly don't know. Taylor Booth, he scored some goals. He's done all right. I don't know if he's going to be a huge mainstay. It's 2 games against El Salvador and Granada, so it's not going to be huge. The player actually I'm looking forward to see is Zendejas. I thought he showed well against Serbia. We need a left-footed winger that is actually left-footed because we only have right-footed guys on the wing. So he brings a little different stuff to the game. He can come inside the game. He's technical. I don't know if he's got the true athletic pace like a Tim Weah or a Pulisic does. But he kind of offers similar things to Gio Reyna, and I know him and Pulisic and some of those guys came up in the youth national team system together and played. It'd be good to see Miles Robinson back. I would actually like to see Austin Trusty start one of the games and see how he does, because he's done really well for Birmingham City, and they've talked about maybe him coming into the Arsenal. Sure. We're calling him at some point and bringing him in the first team.
One of the center backs that's missing is Cameron Carter-Vickers because he's injured. A lot of people wondering what's going on there, but he is injured. So a lot of the big names that are missing are injured. They're not just being not called in.
Yes.
But this is a mostly European-based
besides
roster.
Mara Robinson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So some people said, why Tim Ream? I mean, Nate brought that up in our group text. That's an interesting one. Why Tim Ream? Why not take Walker Zimmerman?
Why not a Walker Zimmerman? Why not someone else? But I mean, maybe because Tim Ream's been playing very well.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
Yep.
And no matter what your age or what you're going to be doing in 2026, we want to win now because there's a trophy of this.
Yep.
And Robert, like you said, we're going to be pissed if we lose a trophy at the end and we don't play well. So maybe it's just the best players. Maybe the new coach is just saying whoever's playing the best is coming in, and that's it. That's what it is. Robert, your thoughts on the roster?
The one thing I really looked for and that made me pleased was I went straight to the forward section to see if DK got picked. Because I'm so happy for him because it was so exciting his come up. He had an amazing USL2 season after having great college, and then he went to pros, tore it up for 9 months in the pros, went to a random English team, Barnsley, people in England don't even talk about Barnsley, and people on national shows were talking about Barnsley and this guy DK, and it was super exciting. And then for him to miss out on the tournament and kind of get wrote off because he had probably a year and a half away with injuries. And for him to come back and then look like that guy again is really, really cool. And he seems like such an entertaining character. Yeah. And then just if we had him playing this way in one like a big tournament would be so exciting.
Yeah, I was very happy for him to come back in. I was very happy for Pepe to come back in. I think Pepe has taken the right. Besides the fact that he put out some words against Berhalter, that he was pissed off he didn't make the World Cup squad, he went back, he worked, and no matter what team he's on, he's putting the ball in the back of the net. He's just putting his head down and getting the job done. So I like him coming back in, but DK was a big one for me as well.
Yep.
And I said that I don't like the team he plays on, but Aaron Trusty has been playing extremely well in a very tough division, the English Championship.
Austin Trusty.
Sorry, what did I say,
Aaron?
Aaron,
yeah.
sorry,
It's
Austin
Austin
Trusty. Yes,
yeah.
my apologies. Austin Trusty been playing very well and deserves the call-up. So I'm very happy to see him in
The
there.
other thing that I looked for was to see if Gio was on there.
Yeah.
Because I'm glad that he's getting called up, and there's not just like a petty thing like he's being left off for personal reasons or some malarkey. I'm glad that was just
Hogwash.
he's coming. Yeah, I'm glad he's coming. I'm glad we didn't have an extra road bump there.
I think we're all in agreement that although maybe Giovani Reyna hasn't been playing very much at Borussia Dortmund and he's had some injuries, he is still only 19 and a hell of a prospect for the U.S. men's national team. To be able to be playing in the position you're playing right now and at the level and to be only 19 years old, he's got 8 more years or 7 more years before he reaches his prime.
Yeah. So
he is a hell of a prospect that I'm glad they called him back in and didn't show any grudges, even after what's happened, because it wasn't him. Mm-hmm. He may have acted a little childish himself, and they've said that at the tournament. But I think it was on the influence of his parents. So I'm glad U.S. Soccer brought him back in. 100% agree there.
Yes.
What I'd like to ask both of you. Turner's been playing in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. Yeah. Was playing in Europa for a little bit for Arsenal, playing at a high level, not in their Premiership games. Zach Steffen, as we said, has been playing very well from Middlesbrough, who's in a very tough division, and they've climbed to the table up into third now. Ethan Horvath for Luton Town's been doing all right. Went through a little blip a couple weeks back, I believe. But who should be – we're going to do this again. Who should be the starting goalkeeper in these 2 games, boys?
I think the easy answer is Turner. I mean, the last time he was in the shirt, he did a great job and really never showed a reason to take it away from him.
I'm going to agree 100%. Sorry, Brooks, to cut you off, but I even agree 100%. He should be the starter for the fact that he was in the World Cup. He was our starter, and he didn't really put a hand wrong, right, or a foot wrong. Yep. Brooks, agree or disagree? Or you want to see someone else?
I agree.
Yeah. Pretty easy answer, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I kind of like to see Turner and then whoever play the tougher game, but let Horvath give him a shot.
You'd like to see Horvath. So you want to see the starter be Turner and then maybe skip Steffen and go straight to the third string?
Yes.
I'm going to, you know what? I'm okay with that as long as it's explained to Zach Steffen, like, listen, you're the number 2, but we would like to see Horvath in here for a couple of minutes to assess him a little bit more in the situation. And I watched Horvath last year, and he scares me, by the way. He did very well when he came in for the U.S. men's national team, but when he was playing last year,
in the championship?
Yes.
Yeah, made some mistakes, yeah.
Robert, looked like you were going to say something there?
He always had, well, they're both capable of good performances and scary ones.
Yes, him and Steffen are, yes.
Yeah, because I've seen them put in great performances, especially Horvath. I'll always have that Nations League final performance where he came in kind of randomly to beat Mexico, and he was great that night. But then also, there's been horrific performances, and for the most part, Steffen, I can't remember too many performances. I've thought that he's been outstanding. He's had more gaffes than good moments, but he's got 34 or 35 appearances, and he's still keeping that job, so apparently maybe consistently is helping him too.
Yep.
And for all you people that are like, where's Gaga? He's with the U20s.
For Chelsea?
No, for the national team. There's something coming up. He's with them. So
he is, but
I said he would be, and not you, but the normal guy that sits to my right.
No idea who the normal guy who sits there is. I've completely forgot his name.
I know. He kept telling me, "Oh, Chelsea, it's a good move. Oh, he's got a national team. They're just a fire. Oh, no, Nate, hold it. No." And he's with you where he should be in the
You know what? That's okay. That's all right, because I do think the people who are ahead of him are more capable and more experienced, and that's what they should be. All right, guys. We do only have about 13 or 14 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to some pieces here. The Ted Lasso piece we'll talk about before the end of the show. We'll talk about if we binge or if we watch week to week. I think we got some differing opinions there. Why don't we quickly, before we run out of time here, I want to show the Bundesliga table. There's some big movement there. Borussia Dortmund at the top of the table. Bayern Munich, you effed up. You are now on 52 points after 25 games. Borussia Dortmund, Giovani Reyna, Sebastian Heller, you are leading the way at 53 points. Big win for them. I know Nate and I, and Brooks, I think you're on the same page here too. We would love it if Borussia Dortmund won this and Bayern Munich finished second.
Or Berlin.
But here's the thing.
Anyone?
Just not Bayern.
Here's the thing. I don't think Bayern can go on and win the Champions League. I might have to be corrected if I'm wrong. They might have gotten dumped out of the Pokal Cup. And if they don't win the Bundesliga title, they're going to go trophyless this season. Someone's going to have to find when the hell the last time they went trophyless was. Nagelsmann could find himself in trouble because they don't have very much patience there at Bayern Munich. So,
Yep.
could be in some trouble there. Let's just quickly put that table back up. I lost it already.
It's been a long time since I've seen Dortmund at the top there.
I know.
Well, back, I mean, when
Back and forth,
Pulisic was playing for him, to be honest with you, when they had Klopp.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the guy who sits at the other at your table, normally his team are now bottom of the table, Brooks. Oh boy.
He'll be formerly known as the other guy.
The other guy.
Yeah.
Stuttgart, bottom of the table.
Yes.
They are not due. I bet them yesterday to get a draw. I figured they'd get at least a point because they're like the draw specialists. They got 8 of them. But no, they didn't. They lost. And this is another. It's another interesting bottom of the table. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams for 3 spots. And just so everybody's aware, in the Bundesliga, the bottom 2 teams, they drop out, they get relegated. And then the team that finishes 16th actually go ahead and play the 3rd place team for Bundesliga 2, and they do a little playoff. It's really interesting. I love it, but I don't want to replace what England has with the playoff
Just
and the Championship.
quick news: Bayern are still in the Pokal. That is from Daryl Traver.
Ooh, they are.
Yes, yes. One of our viewers said yes, they are still in the Pokal. Bayern.
You
So
got
yes.
me. Well done.
Yes. Thank you, Daryl.
Hopefully they get dumped out there. Looks like someone's flipping off the stuff downstairs. Our lights just went out.
We've talked about our former co-host too much, huh?
Yeah,
it's Nate coming to get us.
Looks like our guy may have.
Man.
Hopefully we're still streaming.
We are.
All right, good. They just slipped off the main switch. All right, let's jump to La Liga table real quick. The Liga Barcelona, they're going to win La Liga table. They just won today. They beat Real Madrid. Look, it's all over there. The bottom of the table is pretty much as well. Aleche's gone. Then they got 1 or 2 at the bottom. That's going to be a fun end of the season there for La Liga. I want to make sure we get to the MLS. MLS had some history that was made this past weekend. For the first time ever, an expansion team has won their first 4 games in the MLS. Congratulations to St. Louis City Soccer Club. St. Louis City SC. And Brooks, it's a huge deal to win the first 4 games because it's never been done. And this is the 29th year?
28th? No, sorry, man. 26 or 20. Yeah, they said 25 a little bit. Yeah,
it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I just thought people don't understand how the expansion team, when you are when you start an expansion team and you try to put players together and you've got a coach in, but I mean, they did have it for a while, St. Louis City. So they did have, the players set in place, the big DPs that were coming in, and Berkey was there. So, no, credit to them. It's very difficult to do when you enter a league that you're not sure about, but the coach they had was an assistant at NYRB, so he knows the league. They have John Hackworth doing their academy and second team. So they've set this one up pretty nicely. So credit to St. Louis City. And it's great to see. And honestly, if they compete for an MLS Cup title, maybe that would be interesting. I think the last time was maybe Chicago Fire when they entered that won the first year. So yeah.
Why don't we take a quick look at the table? Sorry, it's so small here, guys. Obviously, we are only 4 games in, and 1 or 2 of the teams have played 3 due to postponements and things of that nature. But in the Eastern Conference, Atlanta United FC 3 wins, 1 draw. Are ahead there with 10 points. New England playing very well. Our good friend Dwan Jones on that club.
Yes.
They're playing well. 1 loss, 3 wins on 9 points. And FC Cincinnati, Nate, or the other guy as we now call him, his favorite club, actually doing very well, 2-2, up to 8 points. St. Louis City SC right now currently at the head of the Western Conference. Well, LAFC, the 2022 MLS Cup champions, LAFC, with 3 wins, 1 draw there. 2 wins, 1 draw, as they are 1 game behind due to the postponement of their first game of the year.
Yes.
Anything that sticks out to you guys on the table? Who we think looks really good and who we think looks really bad?
How about LA Galaxy and Sporting KC at the bottom of the Western Conference right now? That's not very good.
Yeah, man.
The Timbers not off to a good start just because of all the injuries they have. Houston doing all right. Usually they're at the bottom of the Western Conference. Typical ones I would see. The top 7 are in the playoffs. San Jose's done well to start. So for the Eastern Conference, Montreal, does the change and everything, and the players they've sold has been quite a transition. Chicago at the bottom. Charlotte, interesting. They played a couple of tough matches, and they were usually at the top of the table last year. So, FC Cincy, number 3.
Give me your one big surprise from this, Brooks. Give me one surprise so far. That we're only 4 games in.
Besides St. Louis?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call it St. Louis, give me that. Yeah, give me that.
I would probably say it's St. Louis.
I
think everyone else.
What
would
about
feel the
what
same
about
way.
Portland with only 1 win and 3 losses?
Did
you expect that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, with all the injuries they've had, and they've played a tough schedule to open. That's not very easy.
Yeah.
So just St. Louis just on top of LAFC, and they haven't played yet. Those 2.
Okay.
But yeah.
Robert, you big MLS guy?
No, not really. I can't say that I watched too much, but I did take in the Chicago Fire home opener against NYCFC.
How was that?
And I got to say, I feel so bad for Fire fans because there's so many dedicated fans, and they get their hopes up, and it never works out. They got rid of the kind of cynical owner, and which they wanted for so long, and they got a great owner who has lots of money and has put a lot of money in it, but hasn't gotten any different results.
Sure.
And there wasn't a whole lot going on. I'm a Shaqiri guy because I'm a Liverpool guy, and he scored one of my favorite ever goals at the Big House.
The Big House.
The bicycle goal.
Yeah.
That's a memory I'm going to hold on to for a long time because I went with my dad, and that was a fun celebration. But Shaqiri is not the player that Fire need to be spending their money on. Like, if there was 4 other dynamic players that he could combine with, he was on an island.
He doesn't have that.
And even in the spots where he could have brought some quality, he was missing passes and all that stuff too. So it was pretty drab. It turned out to be a 1-1. So unless I don't see drastic changes happening with their roster. So they're in last after 3 games, and I don't see it changing. I don't see it changing.
Well, Chris Brady will get a lot of shots, and that's the next big guy they'll sell, and I think he'll be better than Gaga. So yeah.
Well, you might not be a huge MLS guy, but let me recommend something to you, Robert. Okay, MLS 360 on Apple. I love MLS 360. Now, if nobody's watched this except for me, it is almost like the NBC Goal Rush or the Red Zone for the NFL. Mm-hmm. So it's 4 people in a studio, and they bounce around to all the different games that it looks like there could be a goal, or there's a big play, or something happening, right? So they bounce around, and I figured I would give it a shot. So 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'll give this a shot, MLS 360. I've been hearing some good things. I absolutely loved it. I was glued to the TV for about 2.5 hours. They were bouncing around to all the different games, situations that were happening, breakaways, goals that were being scored, red cards, dangerous plays, whatever it may be. I'm telling you right now, they're not paying me to say this, although they wish they were. Hi, yes, hello. MLS 360, give it a shot.
I was going to say that would change my viewing habits because my MLS intake has always been those random Wednesday nights late at night. Yeah. That's when I would take in the random late night game. And so the experience is going to be different because they've moved them all to pretty much all Saturdays. So they have that experience of all the games happening at the same time. Yep. So for me to do that, I would have to for me to take in, because that sounds fun. Yeah. Because I actually occasionally watch the Galazzo show during Europa League. Yeah. And that's like a bunch of teams I don't really know, but it's like goal, back to back to back, which that's what it sounds like they're going for there with that 360. But I'm not watching MLS on Saturday evening at all.
I'm not watching Chicago Fire versus New York City FC or Austin versus Portland because I have no connection to either of those. I'm just not watching it, but I will on the Goal Rush or on the MLS 360, and like very similar to the NBC Goal Rush or Peacock Goal Rush, whatever it is. All right, boys, we got about 2 minutes. I want to get your thoughts on the Ted Lasso Season 3 dropped this past week. I know Nate is not a very big fan of Ted Lasso. Brooks, you and I are.
Yes.
I am good. I think I'm going to wait a couple of weeks before I start, and I might try to watch 3 or 4 episodes, wait another couple of weeks, and watch the rest of it. I like to binge. I can't do the week every week for 30 minutes. Brooks, you said you are not a binge watcher on this type of series, and you watched the first one.
I did.
Don't spoil. Don't give us a spoiler. But
won't
thumbs
talk
up,
about
thumbs
it,
down.
man.
You like it?
Yeah, I mean, I like the show.
Yeah, but was this the first episode for season 3?
No, I can't.
It didn't jump the
You can
shark in
tell us
episode
if you
1.
like it or not. No? All right.
I
whatever.
don't.
Are you gonna-
Listen,
are you
I want to give people false
Okay.
expectations or
All right.
anything.
Are you
know?
going to watch week to week, or are you going to and are you going to wait a little bit, or are you just going to?
I don't know. Like, I may do week to week. I mean, I have
Yeah.
been for some other shows I watch that
Okay.
do week to week. So yeah.
Okay. What other shows do you watch week to week?
Just like different stuff on
All right.
different channels. Yeah.
Robert, yourself,
Yeah.
you going to
Ooh,
binge? or-
different stuff on different channels. I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one. That's like
Yeah.
a great TV show.
Yeah.
The
I know, right?
week-to-week shows that I'm on is Mandalorian.
Okay.
And then I actually, with Ted Lasso coming back, I realized how much I missed. I really enjoyed the Wrexham show.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one
That was
more,
one of
but
them,
I'll
yeah.
probably go a couple weeks, and I'll watch Ted Lasso at some point, but
Yeah.
I'm not like pining for it week to week.
Okay. Are you a big Ted Lasso fan? You like the show, or it's just like, it's all right?
It's a good show.
Yeah.
I don't like, my eyelashes don't burn off when I watch it or anything, but I enjoy it.
All right. Well, Nate just does not like that show. I'm a big fan of it, but I will wait.
He's being
to
very
binge it.
vocal in the chat right now, Nate. So there you go.
I didn't
Nate's on the
understand.
chat. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I was surprised at the serious turn in season 2 more than season 1, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. One show that I do actually watch week to week is another one on Apple, Shrinking.
Oh yeah.
And do you know who the producer of that show is?
Jason Sudeikis.
No. Brett Goldstein, the guy who plays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a really good writer.
I started watching that Real Madrid documentary. That was pretty good.
Ooh,
Of
I'm
the
gonna have to watch
2021 or 2022 season.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah.
what's
I'm gonna
that
have to
called?
watch that.
It's Real Madrid. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, what platform is that on?
It's on Apple TV.
Oh,
It's one of their
Apple.
documentaries they're doing.
Is it
Because
really?
isn't also the Super League documentary on there as
yeah,
well?
that's on my list next. Actually, I wanted to knock that out.
Super
this
League
weekend.
documentary?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's like, and this is when they made the terrible website.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
All right, guys, it's 11 o'clock. Robert, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a great time. And I know you as the host of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast, but you do so much more. Please, everybody, go ahead and give Robert and the Michigan Soccer Central crew a follow if you do not already. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, it was a great time. I enjoyed talking about national, international stuff because I'm usually talking Michigan-based stuff.
Yeah.
And
Little change.
I know your experience and your knowledge is worldwide, so it's good to have you. And maybe we'll have to get you back on and just do a solely Michigan-focused show soon.
Yes.
I'm down for it if you have me on.
All right, definitely. Brooks, thanks as usual, buddy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. All right, guys. As you can see, someone turned the power off on the main lights in our studio.
It was Nate, 'cause
it
we
was
were
probably
talking
Nate.
about
I'm
him.
gonna go kick him.
Yeah.
When I find him at the bar.
Yes.
Thanks again, everybody, for watching. We'll be
Bar?
back
You're not going to the bar.
Yeah, probably not. I'm going home.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you
Yeah.
next week.